Welcome to Points on the Board, where we tackle the tough questions regarding politics and sports and keep score on the issues that matter. Today we ask, can Sam Darnold make a comeback like Terry Bradshaw, Drew Brees, Steve Young, or my favorite Latino quarterback, Jim Plunkett? Then we'll delve into if Lawrence Taylor and Otis Anderson can help President Trump lock up the black vote. See what I did there? And finally, is it time to forgive and move forward with Brittany Griner? Join me, William del Pilar, as we explore these topics. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. Do not forget to like and share. And also, don't forget you can catch this podcast, Points on the Board, as well as our political podcast, our Pure Sports Play podcast. I say Pure Sports Play because this sports podcast intertwines with today's politics and cultural messaging. You can find us at grumblingsmedia.com, as well as social media platforms such as Rumble, YouTube, Apple, Google, Spotify, y Pandora, all under the profile handle Grumblings Media. All right, let's get to it. As you saw in the intro, our first topic is going to be with, or rather, talking about Sam Darnold. You know, Sam Darnold has had a rough young start to his career. A former first round pick. He struggled with consistency, but he will now have the opportunity to redeem himself with a fresh start in Minnesota. And I personally believe this is the best situation he has been in. He was originally selected by the New York Jets with the third overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft. So he's actually in a very, very similar situation as J.J. McCarthy, who was drafted with 10th or 11th pick by the Vikings. I'm not high on J.J. McCarthy. He's a winner. I grant him that, but he's coming from a Jim Harbaugh style offense, which means run, 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 run some more, and then throw when you have to. Which, hey, to win a national championship or Super Bowl, you run the offense that can get you there and win you the game. Jim Harbaugh, as we know, did make it to the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers, only to fall to his brother, Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh. One of the Harbaughs. I should know which is which, and right now I'm confused. But he lost to his brother in the Super Bowl, who was coaching the Baltimore Ravens. That's too funny. So the difference between McCarthy and Darnold is going to be made very clear this summer and this season. The Vikings want to bring McCarthy on slowly. They want to nurture him. They want him to learn the lay of the land and not thrust him in there to get eaten alive. And that's kind of what happened to Sam Darnold with the Jets. They just threw him into the fire and he failed. You know, he spent 3 seasons with the Jets. His best year was in 2019, throwing for over 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions in 13 starts. Now, here's what we have to say about all this is Adam Gase was his head coach. Adam Gase is what you call a QB killer. He's a player killer. He is one of the most incompetent head coaches to have ever coached the game. I don't think we'll ever see him in the NFL again as a head coach. He reminds me of Les Steckel. For those of you, most of you who are listening to this will probably too old to remember. Les Steckel replaced Bud Grant, if I remember correctly, with the Minnesota Vikings. Ex-Marine, ran a Marine-style boot camp in training camp and ended up alienating the players and having a poor season. I don't think he made it out of training camp as a head coach, but he was let go. I think that's Adam Gase. And my point is the New York Jets have destroyed quarterbacks. They have never built their own franchise quarterback outside of Joe Namath, who was not a very good statistical quarterback, but did win them a Super Bowl, and that's all that matters. But we're talking about the 60s, 70s, you know, in terms of a quarterback. I mean, they had Chad Pennington, not a franchise quarterback, an overachiever, Ken O'Brien, Todd Bridges, maybe Todd. I can't. Richard Todd. That's it. Richard Todd. They've had some decent QBs, but never a franchise they've been able to build and nurture themselves. So every quarterback they've had there has failed. And here's the kicker: Joe Flacco was a quarterback there. Backup came in to become a starter. They let him go, and he had a terrible track record there. They are just a terrible franchise, a terrible culture. He didn't stand a chance. Gase was the head coach that killed QBs, but in truth, the New York Jets are the NFL team that kills QBs. So he went to the Carolina Panthers in 2021. And he failed as a starter there too. But that team, as you can see this past year, even with Bryce Young, their new franchise QB, who I think is going to be a buzz. He's just not built to be an NFL quarterback, as we saw last season. But the Panthers are in turmoil with their new owner, David Tepin, who just consistently meddles, fires, doesn't believe in development, or not that he doesn't believe in development, but it's never fast enough for him. But that said, Darnold led Carolina to a 4-2 late season run, had a career high 92.6 yards passing, and was still seen as persona non grata because they wanted a new head coach, they wanted a new franchise quarterback to kind of reset the Panthers. And I think they're going to fail with Bryce Young, and they already fired Frank Reich. So what happened? Darnold went to the 49ers with Brock Purdy as Brock Purdy's backup. What made that a good situation is the simple fact that, I'd rather see myself there. Do a little stop screen there. Alrighty. So he went to the 49ers as a backup. The reason I was happy for that wasn't, and made me not care whether he was starting or not, was the fact that Kyle Shanahan is an exceptional head coach. He knows how to handle his quarterbacks. He knows how to fix their mechanics, work on improving their mechanics, and he brings the best out of them. Now, Kyle Shanahan will also hold a quarterback back when push comes to shove and it's crunch time and it's time to put the game on the line, because Kyle Shanahan is not the best head coach in big game situations. He falters. He I forget it was the saying I was going to say, but he puckers up. That's it. He puckers up when it comes time to make something happen in the big game. He holds those quarterbacks from making that happen. Or in his defense, he'll have a quarterback that isn't an elite quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo's put in a situation he hasn't really been in most of his career, and that is to put the team on his back and to carry it and come back. He's been in that position a few times and has failed. So sometimes in his defense, Kyle Shanahan's defense, his quarterback has limited him. We don't know where Brock Purdy is going to end up in terms of the Kyle Shanahan legacy, but we'll find out. But it didn't matter. The fact that Sam Darnold went there, he was able to fix the mess that two franchise failures made of him. Sam Darnold right now has the inside track to start as the Vikings quarterback over J.J. McCarthy, who the Vikings do see as the future. Kevin O'Connell noted that Darnold's ability to take advantage in competitive situations during spring OTAs was impressive. For 3 days during those OTAs, he was consistent, dropping the ball into hard-to-see windows. He connected with Jefferson on a few over routes. So he was impressive. And his touch and anticipation were evident. This is arguably the best system he's been in. It's a gunslinger system. So hopefully he'll be able to finally reach the ceiling people thought he had when he was taken in the top echelon of the first round in the 2018 draft. Let's see, 2018, the third overall pick. Yeah, the third overall pick. He signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Vikings. So it's one and done. We want you to come in here so we can groom our quarterback to replace you. But you're going to get every opportunity to win the job, to keep the job. And look, Kevin O'Connell's his third year. He's got to win before the fans are going to start biting his head off. His rookie season, he got into the playoffs, got shellacked by the Giants. Then he didn't even, it was a sad sack season last year once Kirk Cousins went down. So, in fact, here's a quote from Kevin O'Connell. He said while on the NFL Network, "I think his best football is ahead of him because of how he's handled the last couple of years. whether it's going 4-2 down the stretch in Carolina in 22, or when you turn on the tape of his work in San Francisco. You can tell the 49ers coaches did a great job in the next phase of his career, O'Connell said, per the NFL. So there's a quote. Again, I'll read it again. I think his best football is ahead of him because of how he's handled the last couple of years, whether it's going 4-2 down the stretch in Carolina in 22, or when you turn on the tape of his work. Also, according to ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler, he was on an episode of SportsCenter a couple weekends ago, maybe a few weekends ago, who knows? But he said that the Vikings are high on Darnold and expect him to start and finish the 2024 season as their top quarterback. The Minnesota Brass believes that there is untapped potential here. Quote, believes that there is untapped potential here. That's quoting Jeremy Fowler. That this will be his first opportunity to play with a quality supporting cast. And it's true. This is the best situation for Sam Darnold. Look, I'll talk about that shortly. So it's not. That said, it wouldn't be a surprise if he's benched, by week 6. Look at this schedule they have. Uh, After the week 6, okay, before the week 6 bye, they have an opening schedule that includes the Giants. It's winnable. But then they got the Niners, the Texans, who played lights out last year, shocked the world, and on paper have improved that team. The Green Bay Packers, who should have beaten the Niners in the playoffs, and the New York Jets, who were literally just a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl competitive team before Aaron Rodgers went down. After the week 6 bye, they had the Detroit Lions. So that's a rough schedule. You can see them going, what, 1-4, before the bye gets there. So Sam Darnold may have a great opportunity here, but he will also have to showcase himself and show that he does belong. Now, for McCarthy to start, he's going to have to hit some milestones. And Kevin O'Connell has laid those out. And if he hits them, he will begin to play. And that's part of the so-called detailed development plan. And that's fair. You want to see the kid be able to show things in practice, maybe a few spot plays if they're getting blown out or they're blowing the team out. But at the end of the day, it's clear they want to nurture this kid to develop him and not throw him into the fire. And I agree with that. But that only works if that kid gets some playing time in there or shares reps with the first team throughout practice time. If you just keep him with the second team or the scout team, none of that development is likely to happen. As I said, Darnold has had a good spring, so that's a huge positive. And one reason I agree with this, and I can't remember what writer it was, and I apologize. I have all my notes. All these notes come from about 6 or 8 sources, whether I spoke to somebody or whether I gathered them through articles. But when I saw Darnold come in against the Ravens, I didn't see anything magical or spectacular, but I saw a kid with solid mechanics. I saw a kid who looked confident on that field. I saw a kid who understood the pressure he was under. And I saw a kid not crumble. And that's what the Vikings also saw. He was playing faster. He had a rhythm to him. He had that team moving. So the Vikings saw that and they realized, hey, Kyle Shanahan fixed a lot of defects here. Maybe he can be our stopgap player. Now, the writer goes on to say, I'm not saying he's going to be Joe Montana. Nobody is, but you don't have to be a Joe Montana to win a Super Bowl in this day and age. You just have to have a great manager. Now, in Kevin O'Connell's offense, you need a gunslinger quarterback. But that said, Darnold has the tools to be that gunslinger. So, according to O'Connell, Darnold, after a good, strong OTA, will open training camp as the number 1. And they don't have a depth chart, but he himself acknowledged that if they did, he would be the starting quarterback. That's followed by Mullins and obviously Nick Mullins and then obviously J.J. McCarthy. And again, McCarthy's development is going to be nurtured by the Vikings. They're not going to rush him into anything. Think of Steve McNair. Think of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has gone on to become an elite quarterback who is Hall of Fame bound. Steve McNair never lived up to the expectations, but he had a solid enough career. Now, why another reason I like JJ Darnold is simple, and that is stud wide receiver Justin Jefferson. So, look, first of all, I disagree with the big monster contract that Justin Jefferson got. I would never give any receiver that. A receiver's stats are tied into the quarterback. Can a stud elite receiver make an average quarterback look much better than he is? Yes. But can a stud receiver consistently make a quarterback look good or carry a team? No, they cannot. So I think they wasted a lot of big money. But that's the way the receiver position is going. But I think it'll come back down, come back to earth. Look, these receivers' numbers always drop when the stud QB goes out. So my point being in saying that is I just feel when you do that, you are losing quality depth at other positions because your money went to a player who didn't deserve that big of a contract, not because he's not that talented, because of the position he plays. But that said, he's a fifth-year receiver. And he's had a phenomenal career. He's amassed 1,400 yards, 7 TDs during his rookie season. That was in 2020. He went to over 1,600 yards, 10 TDs, 2021. But then in 2022 to 2023, he went to 1,800 yards, 8 TDs, first team All Pro honors, and 3 Pro Bowl selections. However, he did have a down season last year because of injury, but that's a given. He should return to form. He's only in his 5th year. So having somebody like that will help Sam Darnold out incredibly. Again, I'm not knocking his talent. I'm not knocking what he means to this team. I'm just saying you overpaid for somebody that money could be used for quality depth elsewhere. So what happens, though, if Sam Darnold is lights out? Will they re-sign him next offseason and stick with him as a starter? Will they sign and trade him? Will they let him walk? Well, who knows? But right now, he's only the gap quarterback. He will be the gap quarterback until they feel J.J. McCarthy is ready. However, if he does play lights out, I would not be shocked if they tag him in some form or fashion, not wanting to keep him as much as to get something in return from him. So where does that leave JJ McCarthy? Well, as I said, they're going to nurture him. He's impressed the coaching staff. He's got arm talent. He's a winner. He made some quick decisions during mini camp. He was a 10th overall pick. And even though technically it's a competition, they really want Sam Darnold to take this job. And that's kind of where he stands. There's nothing much else to say. I'm not as high on him. I believe he was a second day quarterback. The problem with quarterbacks is they are so few and far between, and you don't know where your franchise QB is going to come from. So these not mediocre, but these non-first round picks will creep up onto the first round because it's a hype machine. They have their own pro scout days. They have the people whispering in the scouts' ears. The head coaches start to fall in love with this. Look, I covered NFL drafts for 10 years. I went to the combine for 10 years. It was a blast. In fact, if I had a company now, I probably wouldn't even be able to get in there. When my company went, we were still a fairly new company, but it's not the big play it is today. So I'm very familiar with the process. I'm very familiar with how it works, how talent is evaluated. I'm not a talent evaluator, but after 10 years of watching it and then watching college football, I do have some sort of idea. And JJ McCarthy is a winner, but I don't know if he has enough tools or has shown me enough to have warranted a 10th overall pick. In fact, no, he didn't. He hasn't. Jim Harbaugh, like I said, runs, and then runs some more. And J.J. McCarthy was there to throw when he needed to. He was there to manage the team. And again, he's a winner, so I can't take that away from him. So, but my point is if Darnold plays lights out, I'm not one to just throw that out the window. And I mean lights out. If he plays lights out, they're like, holy mackerel, he's looking like the 3rd overall pick they thought he would be. Then I'm maybe looking to package J.J. McCarthy. It's really that simple. Now, some people are saying, William. Sam Darnold had a shot. Let it go. My take, well, brother, you don't know what you're talking about. Drew Brees Drafted by the Chargers, struggled in his early years, benched his third season, regained the starting job. AJ Smith, rest in peace, terrible general manager, built a great team, but was a terrible general manager because of his ego. Also wanted to bring in his own quarterback in Phillip Rivers. He let Drew Brees walk. He used a shoulder injury, which was not as bad as they kept telling the public, to let Drew Brees walk. Drew Brees goes to the Saints, wins a Super Bowl, breaks 10 zillion records, is likely a Hall of Famer. AJ Smith and the Chargers, they're still looking for their first Super Bowl. Well, AJ Smith is looking no more, except at the top of a coffin. Rest in peace. Then one of my favorite players, Steve Young. He didn't struggle. He was terrible with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just a terrible franchise. Before that, he was with the USFL. The USFL was such a bad league and ran out of money. He was playing running back to help the team out. Great human being. But they traded him to the 49ers, became the backup to Montana, eventually forced the decision that, hey, it's my time. They shipped Montana out. Young directly won one Super Bowl, was indirectly responsible for a second Super Bowl by taking the team to the championship game before Montana led them in the Super Bowl. Without Steve Young, they don't win that. They don't get into that Super Bowl. Hall of Famer, inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2005. His career similar there to Darnold and having a lot of pitfalls. Terry Bradshaw. Look, Terry Bradshaw was a first overall pick or a top pick in his draft in the early 70s. But he was benched for Joe Gilliam. If Joe Gilliam didn't have a coke habit, maybe we never hear about Terry Bradshaw. Maybe we never see his sorry fat ass lying about ivermectin to America. I used to idolize Terry Bradshaw. Now he's just a fat sow, spewing nonsense on there. In fact, they need to get rid of him now. When he's up there talking, you can tell it's like he forgets what he's talking about. Can't remember now. He's just terrible now. Get out, Terry. Oh, and Terry, I hope you got a good will, because those daughters that you have are quite the leeches. Yeah, I don't like him anymore. But that said, he led the Steelers to 4 Super Bowls. And he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1989. And Terry Bradshaw, despite what I just said about my personal dislike for him, he was a great quarterback. He knew his role as the game manager, but he was also in an era where he called the plays. People don't remember, don't even know. Quarterbacks did not get plays called into them. I forget what year that ended, but in Terry Bradshaw's time, he called the plays. And his greatest gift, he says, was the ability to be able to read a defense. I thought one of the funniest statements concerning Terry Bradshaw was Hollywood Henderson, when he said, if you spotted Terry Bradshaw, the C and the T, he couldn't spell cat. Maybe that's true. But what he could do was read a defense, Hollywood, and he took you and the Cowboys out, not once, but twice in the Super Bowl. So Terry Bradshaw's another one, had a rocky career. Then there's Jim Plunkett. Look, Jim Plunkett was a first overall pick of the 1971 NFL draft, but he struggled early in his career with the Patriots and the 49ers. Jim Plunkett proves you can be a great quarterback, go to a terrible team, and never achieve any of your dreams, because no matter how good you are in a team sport, the players around you just are that bad. And that's what happened to him with New England and San Francisco. Eventually, he went to the Oakland Raiders, and he came back and not won 1 Super Bowl, but 2 Super Bowls, and named MVP in both of those Super Bowls. I mean, look at that. That's the epitome. I think Sam Darnold has that kind of talent. Then there's those who didn't win the Super Bowl, but came back to have outstanding careers. Vinny Testaverde, a first overall pick in the 1987 draft, struggled with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, man, how many teams did not struggle with the Buccaneers? He led the league in interceptions twice in his first 6 seasons. But eventually he went to the Browns, later with the Jets, earned 2 Pro Bowl selections. He took the Jets to the AC Championship game, and he played 21 seasons, most of them as a starter. He started for 7 different teams, so your classic journeyman starter, but who could produce. He persevered, and he's a prime example of a quarterback who overcame bad teams and bad plays to have a great, well, not great, but an incredibly successful career. Then there's Rich Gannon. He was a 4th-round pick in 87. Everyone thought, okay, this guy can't start, bounce around the league. He was a backup, but then he eventually found success with the Raiders. He led the Raiders to the Super Bowl in 2002 and was named the NFL MVP that year. He lost to his former head coach John Gruden in the Super Bowl against the Bucks, but he's gone on to have a great career afterwards. I think he's a announcer, analyst. So good for him. And then one of my favorite sad sack stories is Trent Dilfer coming out of Fresno State, first round pick in 1994. And guess who he struggled with? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers before he succeeded with the Baltimore Ravens. He helped lead the Ravens to the Super Bowl victory in 2000 and was named the Super Bowl MVP. Now, I know some of you fools out there are going to go, well, William, the Ravens won because of their defense. Their defense, William. Yes, that is true. But Ray Lewis said, he loves Trent Dilfer because Trent Dilfer knew his role. He knew what his job was, and that was to be a game manager and a general and to do what was needed to help keep that offense in balance and in sync with the defense. So the defense wasn't always on the field. They had come back from Elvis Grbac. You know, Dilfer replaced Grbac. Grbac was a terrible quarterback who put up maybe a couple, I know one great season with the Chiefs, and I broke that season down in one of my most phenomenally written articles that kind of helped cement my previous company, KFFL, as one of the top NFL sites on the internet. That company, our website was ranked in the top 2,000 in the late 90s of the world. You know, we provided content. If you had played fantasy football or read any player news, it was my company, KFFL, that provided it. You know, I don't know why I'm saying this, but the point is it was one of the best articles I wrote. I broke down his big games, his big stat games, showed how they were against poor teams, showed the defenses he faced. I mean, I did a job that the Ravens obviously didn't do when they signed Grbac. And Dilfer replaced him, and he knew his role. So these quarterbacks, they all overcame early career struggles to have great to successful careers, NFL careers. So the success is the league is not always immediate, but with perseverance and hard work, and I'm not sure Darnold has done that, but I do know going to the 49ers, his mechanical issues greatly improved, and we will now see if he has the stuff of these former players who went on to become Hall of Famers or have great, successful NFL careers. Moving on. So let's talk presidential politics and NFL football, my friends. Let's start with sharing my screen with two players everybody knows. And that is, Lawrence Taylor and Otis Anderson, both former NFL players. And these two guys are New York Giants legends. They have publicly come out and supported President Trump. Imagine that. They appeared at a Trump rally in Wildwood, New Jersey, where they spoke about their support for Trump. And let me show you that support that they talked about.
I just want to say, I grew up a Democrat, and I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here. I'll tell you what. He will not have to worry about nobody in my family ever vote for a Democrat again, okay?
Don't you just love that guy? Don't you just love that guy? I tell you, it has been a very exciting day. You guys, not one person left here. You're still here yelling and screaming. So, my word is, Wildwood, are you in the house? Now, I can't hear you. Wildwood, are you in the house? Thank you guys for all your support. And how about a great shout out for Metro Exhibits, baby? We made it all happen, all because of you. Thank you.
And there you have it, my friends. Oh, before I forget, let's get a hat tip to the RSBN network for the clip. I found it on Twitter, and hell, maybe I found it on YouTube. Who knows? But check them out and support conservative news outlets. These are people who are trying to bring you the news that the mainstream media won't. And look, I come from a country named called Panama. Everybody knows about Panama because of the Panama Canal. But we are also a country where I have seen two dictators. I have seen the mainstream media become state media. And I got to tell you, this is what has happened to our mainstream media in these United States of America. They stopped all pretense after the 2000 election and went full blown progressive leftism. They do not report the news, they promote ideology. So, hats tip to the RSBN network for the clip. Check them out and support another conservative news outlet. Now, back to our regularly scheduled show. And I get nothing out of that. I mean, they don't even know that I took the clip to show them. So, again, these are, Lawrence Taylor's a Hall of Famer. He's a former linebacker for the Giants. As you heard him, I grew up a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat until I met this man, Donald Trump, right here. His statements are part of an ongoing shift in the political landscape in terms of blacks and Latinos. I'm Latino. Our numbers are really increasing towards and for Trump. But the black culture is so synonymously tied with the Democrat Party since the Civil Rights Act, which is ironic considering the Democrats voted against it. They have voted against every humanitarian type style vote, whether it was to free the slaves, we went to war with the Democrat states, whether it was the Jim Crow laws they created, whether it was the birth of the KKK, their militant arm that they created, whether it was them voting no as a party in Congress to keep women from having the right to vote. They've been on the wrong side of every good humanitarian deed that we as humans evolved to become. And yet they have fooled black Americans into thinking that they are there to help them. I say fool because I don't know how else to say it in a polite way. And same thing with my Latinos, because we're self-loathing. We are voting for the party that is systematically destroying us and using us. Look at where we stand from the 60s, whether you're black, Latino, Native American, and look where we are today in the same positions, living in the barrios, the ghettos, the trailer parks. So you're seeing this shift because of the Biden administration. And part of that is because they're willing to help out and use our tax dollars to promote and keep illegal aliens here on our dime. They come into this country, they get money every month. They get housed for free. They do nothing to actually, what's the saying? That they do nothing to contribute to society. Some may, but yet we have a whole swath of legal immigrants waiting to come in, doing it the proper way. So why should illegals get ahead of the line? They shouldn't. And it has no issue with compassion. I lost my cousin because of immigration laws. He can no longer come to these United States of America. Broke my heart, but I was so angry with him because he brought it on himself. So I do have ties to this situation. And Black Americans are now realizing what these illegal aliens are doing in their communities. It was the greatest move that Governor Ron DeSantis and the governor of Texas did by shipping these illegals straight into urban centers. Now, before you go, well, that wasn't right. Oh, really? The federal government was shipping them into red states, and in blue states, they were shipping them into red districts. How do I know? I'm in a red district. And the red district right next to us, they tried to ship him there in Temecula, California. In Temecula, California, they all came out as a community, said no, 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 and wouldn't let them come off the Greyhound buses. And God bless those people. They were protecting their communities, their kids. More and more rapes and murders and criminal acts are coming out every single day, multiple times, being done by illegal aliens. So blacks are seeing that happen now in New York City, in Chicago, in LA, in San Francisco, and they are shifting over to Trump. I mean, don't believe people like Bill Maher who just flat out lie. I mean, it's like your rich white guy lying. Bill Maher, by the way, has to go pay for sex at these sex parties. God bless him. He can do what he wants, but, stroking his little wee there and having to pay to get a little girl to stroke it, that's not my cup of tea, but that's who the left is. So Otis Anderson, for those of you who may not know because you're young, he's a former running back for the Giants. He joined, as you saw Taylor on stage at the rally. And as you saw, they both received great warm welcomes. The rally drew about 80 to 100,000 people. Think about that. Now, the rally also featured Rhino Jeff Van Drew. He's your latest Democrat, the switcher Republican, but he's a Rhino because he still has his Democrat beliefs. He just isn't as out there, meaning he sees how bad the Democrats have become. But he's what I would call a Rhino, Republican name only, because at heart, he's still a Democrat. For those of you wondering, my Grumblings media cup here, we will have them on sale here soon enough. Now, one guy who I do like, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who is under consideration to be Trump's running mate as VP, which I don't think he'll get, but I wish he would. Pick him was also there. So a little bit of the lowdown on Lawrence Taylor. Taylor obviously was a linebacker who was feared throughout the league. So Taylor was feared. I mean, he was feared. So he had strength, he had speed, he could literally fly. For many don't remember, Joe Theismann was I want to say elite, but was a top echelon quarterback, won a Super Bowl. He ended his career taking his ankle out, destroyed it, and multiple surgeries. He ended up coming back into the league. Theismann did, but he wasn't the same and retired shortly thereafter. He was named 13 years for a linebacker. That's a long time. All Pro 6 times, 10 Pro Bowl appearances. He's only 2 defensive players in the history of the NFL have ever won the NFL MVP, and he was one of them. He also led the Giants to 2 Super Bowl victories, and Bill Parcells was a coach. Now, he had personal issues, and that's partially because Bill Parcells was not a good coach in terms of he let his players do whatever they wanted. As long as they could perform on the field, he didn't care. He let his all-stars be jerks, be idiots. He didn't care as long as they showed up for Sunday. So I put some of his personal problems as a young man. These are young kids never been told no. When you're as big and fearsome as mean as Lawrence Taylor, it's kind of hard, but still, that's a coach's job. That's part of their job. If you disagree, well, disagree. I think it's part of their job to help nurture these people, these young, rich, multimillionaire players who are going to be besieged by everybody who is not trustworthy. So Taylor has battled personal problems, drug-related arrests, bankruptcy, a hit-and-run crash, arrested in 2009, pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges of sexual misconduct and sex with an underage prostitute. Prostitute didn't tell him, "Oh, I'm underage." And despite all of this, he is still beloved and revered. And as you saw in that video, nobody cares about his off-the-field issues. I don't know if people will vote for Trump because he asked them to. But again, this is showing the movement of blacks towards Trump because they see Biden for what he is, an old dementia-ridden racist. Remember, if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black, according to Biden. So Otis Anderson, the lowdown. Otis Anderson played 14 seasons for the Giants and Cardinals. About almost 2,600 carries, about 10,000 yards, over 10,000 yards, 376 catches for over 3,000 yards, 86 touchdowns, selected the 2 Pro Bowls, 1 Offensive Rookie of the Year, Super Bowl MVP, and 2 Super Bowls. So he's not really what you would call a Hall of Famer, but 14 seasons, that's incredible. And 2 Super Bowls, he did make his mark. And maybe had those Cardinals teams been better teams, he would have posted better numbers and been a Hall of Famer. So as I said, the black vote is shifting. A Wall Street Journal poll right around May found that 30% of black voters were planning to probably or definitely vote for Trump over Joe Biden. 30%, that's unheard of considering Republicans get about 8% of the black vote. And that's so wrong, but that's on Republicans. If you don't campaign and talk to black Americans, they're going to keep voting for the plantation that keeps promising them everything but never delivering. Again, self-loathing. My take is simple. Go to the districts, campaign, and you will win Black Americans' votes over, just like you ended up winning this Latino vote who was a former Democrat or former leftist. So obviously, this is a massive swing from the 2020 election where Biden got 92% of the black vote. I guess Black Americans did listen to him. If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black. That's what he said. 92% said, okay, I better vote for Biden. Yes, I'm being sarcastic because you voted against your own self-interest. He has done more for illegal aliens than he has ever done for Black Americans. And that goes back to all his racial comments regarding not wanting his kids growing up in Black neighborhoods, the bus scene, everything. Admiral Richard Byrd, former member of the KKK, being one of his good friends. That is who Joe Biden is. How he got 92% of the vote? Well, there's a lot of absentee ballot voting too. So in 2020, Black voters comprised 13.5% of all eligible voters, and they're expected to make 14%. So they're expected to come out and vote this election cycle. So Joe Biden was right about one thing. They do vote monolithically, politically speaking. How are you? Why are you not so racist? No, the numbers show it. Look, 92% vote of the black vote went to Biden. Before that, it was Obama. And before that, Kerry, then Gore, then Clinton. Hell, they said Clinton was the first black president. So they do vote monolithically and vote Democrat. I have friends who I grew up with. They live conservative lives. They have conservative values. They go to church every Sunday. They preach conservative values. But come election day, cha-ching, Democrat. It's a mindset. It's indoctrination. So never forget Joe Biden and Charlemagne the God, who told Charlemagne the God on his show, The Breakfast Club, when he was pressed about the black community's expectations. This is the quote I'm referring to. I'll tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. Let me repeat for you. This is Joe Biden. In fact, I have to do this. It'll just take 1 second. I put the quote up there, but I got to put who said it. All right. Sorry, my friends. Let me repeat that quote to you. I'll tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. Unquote. Joe Biden. So despite a faux apology with 92% of the vote, I guess many listened to him. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, people. I'm being sarcastic because you voted against your own self-interest. That's what I tell my brethren Latinos. You're voting against your own self-interest. And they laugh at me. Okay, cousin. Okay, idiot. I'm voting for the guy who's going to help us. You vote for the other guy. Yeah, look at the data. The other guy between 2016 and 2020 did more for my brethren Latinos and Black America than Joe Biden has done his last 4 years when he was VP under Obama for 8 years and his 40 years previous in government. That's a fact, Jack. Look it up. So the changing tides. Jeff Quatinette, he's the president of the league, of Ice Cube's basketball league. He was on Marie Bartiromo's Fox Business show. And this is what he said. I think that people have realized that neither party really speaks for minorities, maybe for the black audience, and it comes down to who they think will really help them on the issues that they care about. I think it's underestimated how much people care about the economy. We all know people care about the economy and immigration, but I think people in the black community and the minority community is monolithic. They don't realize that people have a lot of different opinions. Let me repeat that. I think that people have realized that neither party really speaks for minorities, maybe for the black audience, and it comes down to who they think will really help them on the issues that they care about. I think it's underestimated how much people care about the economy. We all know people care about the economy and immigration, but I think people think The black community and the minority community is monolithic. They don't realize that people have a lot of different opinions. So Jeff Kwatinetz, he's president of Ice Cube's basketball league. He's absolutely correct. The problem is they vote monolithically. 92%. I forget what percentage, but Democrats have most of the Latino percentage. And it's not because of anything but the fact that they think Republicans are racist. Well, Ronald Reagan helped lift and bring more jobs to the minority communities. George W. Bush did too. Donald Trump gave us the greatest economy ever. Jimmy Carter put us into stagflation, got our troops killed. Biden's gotten our troops killed. Bill Clinton played wag the tail in determining whether he should attack another country. He talked a good game about helping blacks, and once the Republicans took hold of Congress, the economy did very well because Clinton was forced to work with them, and that helped blacks. So when you look at it and you vote for one party every time, that is a monolithic vote. So the naysayers that want to deny that, you're racist. No, they're playing politics. Facts don't lie. The data doesn't lie. But Trump is changing that. How much he can change it to, I don't know. But Jeff Kwatinetz is being very polite there and very diplomatic. But they don't vote based off the economy. They vote based off the Democrat Party and their candidate and believing those lies that the party tells them about the Republicans. Over the last 5 presidential cycles, Democrats have 91 to 92% of the black vote, Republicans 8 to 9%. In 2016, Trump received 8% of the black vote. In 2020, he received 12%. I think it'd be great if he could receive 18%. That would make the difference in this race. However, as we just found out, 48 states are giving out absentee ballots, or rather having illegal immigrants, aliens sign up for absentee ballots. So the fix is going to be in if we don't do something about it. So current polling. Recent polling shows Donald Trump has made significant gains among black and Latino voters. Among black voters, 24% increase have supported Trump, among black voters, there's a 24% now support Trump, and Latino voters, 44% support Trump. And why is that such a big gap? I try to explain to America based off the monolithic comment. Is y'all vote for Democrats based off what you've been told, based off indoctrination of what you're taught in school, of what you're told by your black representatives, by what you're told by Democrat Party leaders. We Latinos, we don't listen to that crap. That's why 44% of us support Trump, and because we are more diverse. My grandmother's black. My biracial niece, she's biracial. I have black cousins, black relatives, brown cousins, brown relatives, white cousins, white relatives. We run the gamut. We are extremely diverse. We are extremely diverse with various upbringings, from dirt poor to being well off. We're not monolithic. And I know I'm not trying to say that to hurt anybody. I'm saying that because it's true. The data points it out. So I don't blame black Americans. I don't blame the Latinos who vote Democrat. I blame the Republicans who refuse to go into those districts to campaign, who don't push back like I do against racist tropes, dog whistles that are used to rile up black Americans against white Americans and create the tribalism, which doesn't help us as working class Americans. It helps those rich elitists. Don't believe me? How come the best track record in picking stocks are from politicians versus Wall Street? It's because they don't care about us. They use a system to enrich themselves and to stay in power. And it's black Americans and my brethren Latinos helping them stay in power. It's time for us to wake the bleep up. My issue with Trump is, why not rally in minority districts? Get Otis Anderson, get Lawrence Taylor to open it up for you, whether it's Southside Chicago, whether it's Compton out of LA, whether it's rural black areas in the South. Excuse me. Wherever it is at, you do that. I mean, Herschel Walker said that's what he needed to do. He advised the Trump campaign, start showing up more in black neighborhoods. Hold your rallies there. I agree. Despite what Democrats say, many black Americans relate to him now because of his unfair, unjust, and political convictions. Our country became a banana republic when they went after Trump for these Trump charges. This is where I argue with my partner who says, well, they don't even know how to convict somebody. He's defending the inept. He's saying the courts are inept for how they bungled these Trump prosecutions. No, they bungled because they're political prosecutions, and they would never have been done and haven't been done to anybody else, just to Trump. So go straight to the minority districts is what he needs to do. Democrats are trying to do to Trump what they did to Bush with 9/11 also. They're trying to keep him from using certain tactics in his campaign. And one of the tactics that Trump is using is, hey, I know what you guys went through now. Look, I'm going through it too. They don't want to allow him to use that by saying it's denigrating the blacks. It's this the blacks. It's that the blacks. It's blah, blah, blah. They just don't want him to use something where a lot of black working class and a lot of poor blacks in the ghetto can relate to Trump. They don't want that. Who are some of the notable black Trump endorsements? Byron Donald, U.S. Representative of Florida. I don't know if he's on the short list, but he was at least on the long list for the VP. I think he's too young, but the guy's a force in nature. Then there's Wesley Hunt, a U.S. representative out of Texas. Tim Scott, we all know, U.S. Senator out of South Carolina. He's also on the long list for VP. Burgess Owens, not as well known, but speaks his mind, very godly at Utah. John James at Missouri, I want to say. Can't remember. Then one of my favorites, Mark Robinson. He's currently lieutenant governor for North Carolina and a candidate for governor of North Carolina. He's been like a shooting star coming out of nowhere with a great speech to his at the Board of Supervisors meeting, if I remember correctly, talking about guns and his guns versus criminal guns. And that launched his whole political career. So God bless that guy. He's fighting the good fight. Some of his more famous endorsements, Mike Tyson, Lil Wayne. For you white people out there, he's a hip hop rapper considered one of the greatest. Lawrence Taylor, obviously. Don King, Herschel Walker, Daryl Strawberry, Larry Elder, a conservative radio host. Amber Rose. Woo, that woman is hot. Jack Brewer, obviously. No, not Jack Brewer. I'm sorry, I confused him with Burgess Owens. But Jack Brewer, a former NFL player. Kwame Kilpatrick, who Trump pardoned. He deserved to go to jail. He was a corrupt politician. I don't know why Trump pardoned him, but somebody got to his ear. Well, he's all behind Trump now. Alveda King, I want to say the granddaughter or the grandniece of Martin Luther King. Pastor Mark Burns, Stacey Washington, an actress. I think she was in Clue. She's a host now of Stacey on the Right, and obviously Otis, O.J. Anderson, and many, many, many more blacks out there. He needs to get these individuals and get them to go to campaign rallies with him in minority districts. And that would be the game changer. There would not be enough absentee ballots to create voter fraud. Yes, there is voter fraud. Check out my Fired Up podcast on that. You can find that at grumblingsmedia.com, where I talk about Dementia Joe and voter fraud. And I show proof, actual convictions of people committing voter fraud. So it's there. And as I said, they're starting to hand out starting to register illegal aliens to vote. The Republicans need to jump on this, and they need to request the Supreme Court to immediately step in, because this is going to be, excuse my French, a shit show of an election, because the fix is in their minds through the illegal aliens. And that is where you got it, my friends. Lawrence Taylor, NFL icon, Otis Anderson, two-time Super Bowl winner, have endorsed and are supporting Donald Trump. Moving on, let's get to Miss Brittany Griner. Love her or hate her, it's time to forgive her and to move on. Before we move on, actually, I want to play this tape of Tim Scott, of him talking about the data he's seen regarding black voters as well. And I talk about black voters because that's where all the demographics are. That's where all the studies are done. That's where all the polling's done, because of the history of black Americans in this country. We talk about them more specifically. And there's more data out there on them than there are my brethren Latinos, even though we now outnumber them. We now have bigger carbon imprint than they do in the political landscape, and we are growing. We will eventually become the de facto minority party in determining who can, which politicians we can help win or lose. But here's the Tim Scott on Black Americans shifting over to the Trump.
Go at it again. They're attacking me for being the only black Republican in the Senate. Yes, time and time again, they have helped defeat black.
He is talking about The View, the ladies of The View, my friends.
Republicans running for the Senate. But what they're really afraid of is this year we have momentum. 4 out of 10 black men wanting to vote for the Republican Party, doubling the number of black women interested in voting for the Republican Party. What they're afraid of is the monopoly is over. The Republican Party, the GOP, on the move in my community. God bless America.
God bless you, Tim Scott. I heard him speak, got my picture taken about to him. I'm not a fan anymore. He's what you call a neocon. He's bought and paid for by donors, but he's a good man, has worked hard, and a role model to young black men. And it's not like he was given the magic wand and deemed the next coming. He worked his way. I think he owned an small insurance firm. He started up, grew that, then got into politics, and now he's a United States senator, only in America. Now, let's move on to Brittany Griner. All right. So Miss Brittany Griner, I'm trying to pull my notes up. We can never forget, but it's time to forgive and time to move on. And here's why. For us conservatives, we look at the whole Colin Kaepernick, and I, as covering football and still covering it during that time, I knew Colin Kaepernick. He was not a leader. I had been told by many press people who we work with, yeah, he's not really a leader. He's kind of maxed out. He's not studying as hard as he should. There's a lot of issues with him that the team has, but he's not progressing as a quarterback. So somebody tells him take an A, he takes an A, and boom. Here we are with the racial lies. That's right, the racial lies. Because what they were saying, the data did not back up. Again, I put it in my last points on the board. Let's have that talk on race. Anybody want to have a talk on race? We will. That is actually one of my future dreams in the podcast, to have a weekly podcast where we talk on race. And that will happen, and it is coming soon. So once that happened, everybody started taking a knee, and Griner was part of that. But before we get into that, let's talk about Griner in general. She just came back to the court to play in the WNBA. I mean, Caitlin Clark's hogging up all the news, and rightfully so. But since her detention in Russia, she's finally come back. She played like 17 minutes in a preseason game. But she said something very important. Griner expressed that she won't take a day for granted after missing the entire 2022 season and spending almost 300 days in Russian custody. She stood for the national anthem before the game, which has been a change from her previous stance in 2020 when she protested by not coming out for the anthem. Now, why did she change? Well, after her experience in Russia, where she was detained and then later involved in the prisoner swap. Here's what she says. I was literally in a cage and could not stand the way I wanted to, and a lot of other different situations, Griner said. So just being able to hear my national anthem and see my flag, I definitely stand. Let me repeat that, people. God, I love that. I was literally in a cage and could not stand the way I wanted to, and a lot of other different situations, Griner said. So just being able to hear my national anthem and see my flag, I definitely stand. She learned her lesson. Now, why was she kneeling for the anthem? To reiterate, her decision not to stand for the national anthem in 2020 was part of the larger protest against the fake police brutality and the fake non-existent systemic racism against the Black population. Systemic racism means the government, society, everybody who is non-Black is out to get you in legal form, in legal fashion, in proper ways. It's not true. If anything, we are one of the greatest countries in terms of fighting racism over the last, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 generations. I mean, 500,000 whites died to give Black Americans their freedom. The Republican Party was created to give Black Americans their freedom. The Republican Party led the way with the civil rights movement. It was the Democrats who tried to block it. Don't believe me? Come on, we'll talk about it. We'll talk Dixie Democrats, who they really were, how many actually became Republicans. 3. No, people, that's not the okay sign. That's 3. You know, police brutality, the data supports what I just said. Like I said, you want to come on, we'll come on and debate it. You know, you can't be brought up to be angry against cops, to be belligerent, to fight them. Cop tells you stand down, stand the fuck down. That's simple. I have 3 times against cops, and I got my ass jacked up. If you notice, I dropped the niceties because I was an a-hole, and I deserved it. And my mouth was everywhere. It's still a bad cop, still a bad arrest, still a bad situation that I got involved in. But wrong place, wrong time, it didn't matter. My mouth is what got me jacked up. And I'm sorry, I grew up in the South. A lot of black friends got pulled over by cops to a T. Every one of my black friends, shut the bleep up, William. Or Willie, shut up. Blah, blah, blah. We were all brought up in the same neighborhoods by strong father figures. So we knew how to act. And I tell you, there were a few times we got into tickets we should not have gotten at them. So how you carry yourself matters. So that was all a lie. Systemic racism, my ass. You'll never, ever get me to cede anything on that. You know, the protest was highlighted by the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and others, they say, in 2020. Griner called on the WNBA to stop playing the national anthem before games as a form of protest. Let's talk about Breonna Taylor. Her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, had a gun when the police entered the apartment, and he fired a shot. Shot an officer in the leg. So, yeah, you do that, you're probably going to get shots fired back at you, and you're probably going to die. So stop. George Floyd. Look, the medical examiner's autopsy report showed George Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl in his system. The fentanyl contributed to his death, but they say it was not the direct cause. Now, here's the kicker about medical examiners. Their findings and testimony is easily swayed based off what the public is feeling. There was a lot of hate, a lot of burnings, a lot of destruction, a lot of savage beating up of people, for lack of a better word. So, hey, yeah, it's a homicide. You know, the cause was attributed to the activities of law enforcement officers, not solely the fentanyl overdose. The point is fentanyl was part of the problem. And what is this with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's heroes? No, I'm sorry. There are plenty of strong black men and women over time, many that became politicians right after the Civil War, in Congress, millionaires as captains of industry. You don't know squat about them because they don't teach you that. They just teach you you're a victim. Look at where you live at. Look at the jobs you get. Look at the education levels. All brought to you by the Democratic Party that says they're going to help you. I tell the same thing to my brother Latinos. It's time for us to wake the bleep up. And we also haven't found out what the true relationship between Derek Chauvin and George Floyd was. They worked together. They knew each other. This is so much deeper, but y'all allowed yourselves to get played. And BLM leaders who were queers and wanted to sit there and move the queer movement forward, they're multi-zillionaires. Y'all got nothing. They got riches and they were used by the Democrats and they used the Democrats. And again, the elites got more power and got greater riches. A few of their own, the BLM leadership became multi-zillionaires. They don't even know where the money is for some of this. Some of them are up for fraud and tax charges. It's like, come on, man. Para mi Latino, es tiempo para pensar qué necesitamos, qué queremos. Y todo es más de lo político. So, Let's talk about Brittany Griner and her Russia party days. I say that sarcastically. So she was arrested in Russia on February 17, 2022 at Sheremetyevo International Airport. Now, Russian authorities found vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. Now, this is what the left does. They were prescribed by doctors. I don't care who, if they were prescribed by God. They're illegal in Russia. Oh, but William, she had to pay over there. She lives in poverty. No, she didn't. She was a millionaire over there. She was just earning more millions. Even the WNBA players, rookie starting at what, 70 some odd thousand. That puts them well above the median of the working class. These are not paupers. Don't believe the lies. So she was charged with drug smuggling and possession. She pleaded guilty. She had no choice. She was caught red-handed. And then she lied, though. I planted the cartridges inadvertently and had no criminal intent. She had no criminal intent, but she did not pack the cartridges inadvertently. It's like, oh, my cartridge. Oh, they just fell into my luggage. Oh my God. I didn't see that happening. That's my terrible wink, wink move. So on August 4th, 2022, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison. And prison, you're talking gulags. And obviously the U.S. government, which was Dementia Joe led, and her supporters called for her release, labeling her detention as wrongful. It was not wrong. Let's be clear on that. She was a convicted drug felon by her own doing. That's a fact. She wasn't targeted. And if she was, well, how did they know she was carrying drugs? Unless she'd done it before. And then somebody tipped them off. Who knows? But the point is, what she did was illegal and she knew it. The real travesty in all of this is Victor Bout, the person they traded to release her. Because she was Black and a lesbian, she became high priority over other more important or prisoners that had been in Russia longer. She was moved up because of her political being, not because of her importance. And they traded her for Victor Bout. And critics say he set a terrible precedent by trading an athlete. She was not a celebrity. The only thing she's a celebrity for is a lot of people think she's a guy. And in fact, with that said, oops, wrong file. Let me make that picture there a little bit bigger. I mean, that's a cute picture of her, but she really has a manly look. I'm not gonna lie. I don't fall into these little games. Is she a man or a woman? But she is known for that debate. So that's actually a cute picture of her. She's laughing, smiling, having fun. God bless her. Here's the other picture though that she's known for. Let me make that one bigger there for you, my friends. And yeah, she screams man in that picture, but I'm not going to get into that argument. I'm just presenting you how she's seen in this country. She's not a celebrity as much as it's a debate. Is she a man, woman, whatever? I don't care. I'm just bringing you who and what she is known for. God bless this woman, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. But let's get back to Victor Bout. He was serving a 25-year prison sentence in the United States for conspiring to kill Americans, acquiring and exporting anti-aircraft missiles, and providing material support to a terrorist organization. He was an arms dealer. He has blood on his hands. He has killed many, many, many humans. And obviously Americans, if he's in an American prison. In a prisoner exchange, they released Victor Bout for Brittany Griner. That's not. Victor Bout should never have been released. But because they were playing politics, remember, Joe Biden allowed 13 Marines to die in Afghanistan as we were leaving. Why? Because he went against every order he was told so he could have optics to have a political, we're leaving Afghanistan and I did it. Why? That's a lie, because it was Trump who had it all set up. he changed Trump's game plan at the end, and 13 Marines died. So Joe Biden doesn't care. Joe Biden's son, he uses a pawn to enrich himself, as we're finding out. Druggy's a son, a thug of a son who passed away also. A whore of a wife. He was cheating. She was cheating on her husband, and they lied and tried to create this Kamala-like story. Joe Biden's just a liar. He has no scruples, no morals, and that's why he allowed this prisoner exchange of murderer for Griner. Victor Bout was involved in supplying weapons to various conflicts and groups. Now, Brittany Griner, when she came back, she said she was shocked at being labeled unpatriotic for kneeling during the national anthem. She stated that her father served in Vietnam and was a law enforcement officer for 30 years. Her comments came in response to criticism following her sentencing to 9 years in prison for Russia for that drug possession. She was wondering, why didn't we support her? Because she didn't support and hated this country. I'm not going to waste my time saying, let's bring somebody who wants to destroy our country back. No. And that's what she can't understand. Her agent tried to defend her, saying the WNBA is known for its activism. Monica McNutt said the WNBA is made up of blacks and queers, and that's how it should be promoted, and that's who should be the face of the league. I don't care to watch queers play or women play. I don't care if they're black. I've been watching blacks playing sports my whole life. I have cousins who are black. My grandmother was seen as black. She was called the N-word. So that's never bothered them. But I don't care about watching a bunch of women who profess on activists and queers, in queerness. That's not what I call enjoyment. So click. I don't even bother turning the channel. But all that changed after Russia. All that changed from the fact that WNBA teams stayed in their locker rooms during the anthem because of racial injustices. Is there racism? Yes, there is. But not at the levels, nowhere near the levels, not even 1/10 of the levels that race hustlers push. Then they were saying that she went to Russia because of pay inequity. Like I said, she's earning millions already through endorsements and not millions, but hundreds of thousands through endorsements. She was earning a six-figure living as a player, not a multimillionaire, but she was well above the mean. She was in the top 10% of the country. Pay inequity. The WNBA has been losing money since its inception in 1996. They're going to lose money this year, despite Caitlin Clark. Why? They're going to be footing $25 million for private flights for these girls, and they did it because of Caitlin Clark and the fact. And they know that the league is going to see some popularity, some notoriety. Before then, they could fly commercial. Nobody would know. Hey, who are these tall women here? Queer and black. That's who we are. David, Monica McNutt, go! And for y'all, I'm just repeating what McNutt said. What she wants and what the league is all about and the activism from the league. Again, she's shocked at the unpatriotism. The problem with her, it doesn't matter what her dad was. She's not her father. Her father, if he supported her, was an idiot because he fought for that flag and everything it represents. You want to not stand and not honor the flag, then we have a problem. And it is your right to do that. But I also have the right not to like it and to talk about how and why I believe it's wrong. This is a one-way street. I have the right to do that. That's right. And I have the right to not like it and to speak out against it. I wish it was a law where you couldn't do that. So her and her father are two different people. Period. End of story. So she shouldn't be shocked. I believe she was using it as an excuse. She has a right to do that. She did not make a mistake she knew what she was doing. She knowingly took illegal drugs with an American mindset that she's above the law, and it cost her. But when you're in prison, and I almost was thrown in prison because of my freaking friend in Panama after it died, talking trash to the military guy, and we were diving, so I didn't have my passport, just ID. And man, he scared the hell of me. He's ready to take me to jail. if it wasn't for my uncle driving all the way down uh, to deal with the issue. So yeah, I can only imagine, because the prison I would have been thrown to was one of the worst prisons you could have been thrown to in Panama. You see this handsome mug? I would not have lasted long. And it was also in Colon. And I am technically Colonés, meaning that's where I'm from with my birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. But that's like Harlem to me or Compton to me. You know, I stick out. When I go there, I'm always with friends, and I always get the stares. So yeah, thank God for my brown skin uncle. Man, those people down there in Panama, they rag on me because I'm so light. Are you really related to us? We don't know. Did they find you by the side of the river? I goes, yeah, I'm the guy from Egypt. They floated down the river. I'm brutal back. We go back and forth because it's love. We don't care. We have each other's back. There's a fight. There's a throwdown. We're there for one another. But amongst our whole group, we crack on one another. They crack. In fact, some of them call me Blanquito, little whitey. But here's the most revealing thing about her, and we're coming to the end of this. I apologize for dragging it out, but not everybody knows Brittany Griner's story, and it must be told all the black and white of it, meaning the good and bad of it all. But here's the quote she said, and I admire her for that. Just being able to hear my national anthem, see my flag, I definitely want to stand. Now, everybody that will not stand or not come out, I totally support them 100%. That's our right as an American in this country. And I agree. It's also my right to criticize and say I don't like it when those women stay back in the lockers, because as somebody who's from Panama, who saw two dictators, I know what Brittany Griner had to learn the hard way. I already know that. That's why I'm so adamant about not allowing any pushback, and I will challenge the lies that Colin Kaepernick helped start, the racial injustices that we did see with BLM murdering people, doing over $2 billion in damage, the mainstream media and Democrat leftists calling it friendly protests when billions were destroyed. There's a reckoning that will come. I hate to say, I don't know when, and I hope I never see it, but it will come one day. Karma is always right around the corner. But back to Griner. God bless that woman. Here's what she said.
Echo Josh's question. Did things hit a little differently when that national anthem played,
All right. Let me backtrack this. This is her on the national anthem.
Did things hit a little differently when that national anthem played and just kind of the whole night throughout?
No, it did. Hearing the national anthem, it definitely hit different. It's like when we go for the Olympics, you're sitting there, you're about to get gold put on your neck, and the flag's going up and the anthem's going. It just hits different. But being here right now today, it definitely hits different.
What she's saying is, I understand how great we have it in this country. I will now stand for the national anthem. So before we go, I want to show you one of our breaking news segments. My partner, Big John T. Georgopoulos, he does these breaking news segments. And one of the first ones we ever did was on Brittany Griner when she came back. I want you to pay attention to the very end because he hits it on the head.
BG here, y'all. Happy to be out, free as a bird. But I gotta tell you, I'm a little upset that I didn't get out any sooner. You know me, I'm always a good American, repping the red, white, and blue all the time. I know some of y'all upset that the GM of the United States could only get me for a Russian arms dealer, but hey, I ain't no GM, and I ain't aware of no salary cap situation, so don't give me no grief about that shit. This country's still racist as though.
Maybe there was a second one we did. I'm not sure, but let me check here. So I found the right one. It looks like we did too, Brittany Griner. And Big John is very creative. And what people don't realize, if you notice what they're saying, he talks about the issues at hand. So this next one on Griner it's actually, I'm gonna have to get him to re-release it, re-optimize it, whatever, get it back in circulation. But right now with Caitlin Clark, all the issues of the WNBA's past, how they haven't been able to earn a coin, haven't been able to do anything. John kind of talks about that. So if you listen to it, I want you to pay attention to the very end because it resonates with her belief she'll stand for the anthem now. And God bless her for that. She learned the hard way. But the fact that we can change and we can learn and we can grow from that, that's why I believe it's time to forgive her and to move on. Let me play this here for you.
What's up? I'm Brittany Griner, the most dominant player in WNBA history. In a racist, misogynistic, anti-LGBTQA plus country like the USA, being the best WNBA player of all time means about as much as being the best haiku writer of all time. A few hipsters find it impressive, but nobody is willing to drop any real coin for it. Which is why I came to hoop in Russia, where they respect and pay people like me. Fuck the US. Please send help. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty.
Not bad for two old men doing things that the younger minds tend to do much easier and better and faster. But those were a couple years ago, obviously, and Big John, God bless him with his ability to work his comical magic, and it's called satire. For those of y'all, that's called comedy. It's satire. It's humor. It's the satire is the mocking of a situation, But all that said, I will leave you with this. Brittany Griner, as I said before I showed you the final video, learned her lesson. And God bless her for it. God bless her for showing that we as humans can always grow and learn. We can always mature. Sometimes we got to be hit over the head like she was and learn the hard way. But it's what we take out of it. She's not a victim. Leave me that. She may talk about that type of stuff or whatever. I don't care. But she's not a victim in this sense. She understands what she left was pure hell. And she came back to greatness in what this country allows us to do. You can't protest in Russia. She's grateful you can't hear. And that's why she's now standing for the national anthem. And with that, my friends, I will remind you to don't forget to like and share. And you can find this podcast and others like it, politics, sports, and pop culture and entertainment, at grumblingsmedia.com, as well as social media outlets such as Rumble, YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, and Google under the profile Grumblings Media. And with that, my friends, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sticking around and sharing. And until next time, this is William del Pilar. This is Points on the Board. And I bid you adieu.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.